So Tassigrammer, you're in the middle of your long road trip at the moment, and luckily you've done some very good preparation for your road trip. You've managed to get your car serviced, your gear all clean and everything charged, and then something's happened that you can't really plan for. You try to, but you've ended up having your car break down in basically the middle of nowhere, and you're stuck there for a few days.
Well, look, it's not broken down, so it didn't stop running. All that happened was I basically ended up with a spurt of oil coming from a tiny little part which sits on the outside of the motor, thankfully. Thankfully, it's not inside the motor, otherwise we'd be in a whole world of trouble. But yeah, look, basically the camshaft timing chip that sits on the outside of the motor's got a tiny little engine leak coming out of it, but under pressure turns into a big leak. We left Esperance on Friday morning last week, drove 2 hours inland into Norseman, stopped at the petrol station, got to the petrol station and saw smoke pouring out from under the bonnet. So basically what had happened was all the oil that's kind of spurted out of this little tiny part has ended up heating up on the engine block and turning into smoke. So yeah, that kind of put a bit of a dampener on our trip. We were heading back on our way to Port Lincoln, which was supposed to be a pretty quick 18-hour drive all the way through. And now we've so far been stuck in Norseman for 4 days. Took the car straight to the mechanic. Took him about an hour to diagnose the issue and track down a part which has to come from Sydney. Unfortunately, because it's a Peugeot, I think it's a nice car anyway. And basically, we have to wait for the part to be shipped over from Sydney, which should arrive tomorrow, Tuesday morning. We're hoping. We're hoping. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck here for another day at least.
Yeah, I don't know what would be worse, being stuck at Norseman or not realising the problem for another, say, half a day and being halfway across the Nullarbor before your engine just sort of spurted smoke and oil and you broke down halfway between roadhouses or something. So you're probably lucky in one respect that you're in Norseman and not sort of at the New South Wales, South Australian border. But yeah, being stuck there can't be very good. Would have been nice to be able to get to Esperance, but you're just, stuck at the crossroads.
No, look, I've got to agree with you on this one. We are stuck in the middle of nowhere, but we would have been stuck in the middle of absolutely nowhere if it happened on the way across the Nullarbor. The Nullarbor is 12-hour crossing, 14-hour crossing or something across, and there is literally nothing on the road apart from a few little towns with a few little roadhouses and maybe a few kangaroos you might see. That's about it.
I definitely saw some kangaroos. They were on the side of the road and not really getting up, but yeah, they were there.
Yeah, look, so in Norseman, if nobody's been through Norseman or if anybody is, planning a holiday to Norseman, I can pretty much tell you straight away now the best two places to eat in town are the Caltex or the BP Roadhouses. The BP Roadhouse does a nice little Sunday roast, which is, the locals like to talk about that. That's a thing to do on a Sunday night in Norseman. So tourism industry is obviously thriving here. I went to meet one of the local photographers who actually the mechanic tried to cheer me up the other day because I was pretty annoyed because we were on our way over to do something in particular in Port Lincoln. He tried to cheer me up and told me there's a local photographer across the road who has a gallery. So I actually went over there, gave the guy a call. He was in Margaret River at the time. But ended up arranging to meet up with him and met up with him last night, kind of gave me a bit of a tour of his gallery and showed me, the camera equipment he uses, and we had a really good chat about photography. So it's good to meet another local photographer here. I'm pretty impressed that he's managed to capture some awesome shots here because I don't feel like taking my camera out. I can promise you that right now. It's probably the last place in the world I want to take photos. This place is not at all inspiring to me, but some of the images that he's managed to capture from all around kind of outback and country WA is pretty impressive. Does a lot of stuff around Kalgoorlie and even further towards the coastline, which is where I would much rather be at the moment. If this happened and we were stuck in Esperance, well, I would have been perfectly happy, but we're stuck 2 hours inland from Esperance and sadly there is no water in the lake. There's been no clouds in the sky. The ground is probably, I doubt it's rained here for maybe 3 or 4 months. I don't know. It's probably my estimation at the moment. I've been out. I actually did take my camera out and photographed a few birds, so I might do a Birds of Norseman series or something. But other than that, I cannot wait to get in the car, jump in, and leave this town. And won't be planning on returning anytime soon.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's too many places you could get to without a car and being in Norseman. I mean, fair enough, if you're in Norseman, you're able to sort of go out and see the surrounding area, but if your car's not working, you can't really walk too far. and with all your camera gear, and there's not too much you'd be able to see. Maybe you'd be able to get out and shoot just the stars, because there's probably not much around you could have in the foreground. So maybe you'd get some stars out there. Any luck with the astrophotography?
Almost perfect astro conditions. Obviously, new moon here over this side of Australia. The Milky Way is kind of rising at about 9:30 at night. Unfortunately, though, it's about a 4 or 5 kilometre walk to even get to a place that's remotely outside of the lights of, like, the service stations here are huge. You've probably got to see them, the big truck stops. There's actually quite a bit of ambient light that comes across from the town here. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of a walk to get out, and I'm kind of not really too keen on going wandering in the middle of the night in the middle of the desert either. There's all sorts of interesting people and interesting things out here, so I'm probably just better off keeping my camera gear safe at the moment and keeping it nice and clean and ready for the next leg of our road trip, which will hopefully begin tomorrow. So I assume you've found the one local recording studio that's in town. You must be sort of in a fairly soundproof room recording this with some high-tech gear. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually sitting right now in the barbecue area of the local caravan park. I was sitting in the camp kitchen just before, but when we did a few little tests there, it was echoing too much, so the reverb on this probably would have been a bit too much. But yeah, look, I'm currently sitting in the barbecue area. I've got a nice little plastic table, plastic chairs. If you listen hard enough, you'll probably hear the crows going. I'm really hoping we don't have too many trucks drive past on the main road, and also the motorbikes or the little quad bikes that kids are riding down the back of me in the red dirt. Just kind of hold off for long enough for us to get this recording out, because it's definitely state of the art anyway. Probably a step down from what I'm used to, but we'll make do with what we got here anyway. Other than that, though, it's been an awesome trip. I mean, up until we left Esperance the other day and landed in Norseman, I mean, the trip over was pretty wicked. We saw some really cool pink lakes, put the drone up above them, and got some really cool abstract shots. There wasn't as much water as I would have liked, but still found enough to kind of do what I wanted to do. Had a nice little quick night in Port Lincoln, which is a bit of a detour, but we needed to stop through there anyway to arrange a couple of things. And then at Esperance, Cape LeGrand, incredible place. Any of the beaches along there, West Beach, 11 Mile Beach, which are a bit closer to town. They're really, really cool. Got quite a few drone shots there. Some nice sunrise spots. I almost got swept off a rock at Thistle Cove. I was kind of in an unsheltered section, and some rogue waves come through there quite often. If you've ever been in there, there's actually signs up that say be careful of rock fishing, and they've got some example shots and places where you're actually supposed to chain yourself to, like you're supposed to rope yourself off so that if a wave does come, you don't get swept out to sea. Luckily, I hadn't unpacked my camera gear yet. Otherwise, I reckon I would have been in a whole world of trouble, because I actually literally got smashed off my feet and sucked out towards the ocean. I managed to grab hold of the rocks and it kind of saved myself, but that was pretty scary. But still a nice little spot. And Lucky Bay, I don't know, you've been there yourself, you know what it's like.
Yep.
About 3 o'clock in the afternoon each day, the kangaroos kind of come out onto the beach. We tried our best to secretly photograph them, but obviously when I pulled out my 300mm zoom lens and a big camera and started pointing at things, people kind of noticed and ran over and kind of rushed over and tried to get their own shots of the kangaroos as well. A lot of children around on the beach there, so yeah, it was a little bit frustrating, but obviously I'm one of the tourists as well who was trying to capture some shots, so I can only imagine what the other people would have felt like, trying to get their own shots as well. So
yeah, they're popular little critters down there.
Yeah, pretty awesome up until we landed here, though. I mean, it's been full on. But yeah, being stuck in Norseman's not my idea of fun, and we've probably had to drop off a massive part of this trip, which was going to be Kangaroo Island as well. I don't think we're going to make that now. We're going to kind of cut that short and do a few little other areas on the way back instead. But yeah, we'll make the most of what we do have, I suppose. So
yeah, you can't. That's one of the things with doing a road trip. You can plan for everything, except there's not really anything you can do. You can't say like, just in case this part fails and we get stuck here, we'll do this. I mean, it's an unfortunate thing, and you just got to make the best of a terrible situation. And I'd love to absolutely pay you out about being stuck in Norseman, but I've been through there. I can imagine being stuck there, and I wouldn't really wish that on anyone who wants to go out and take photos. And yeah, if you happen to be stuck there, I'm sure it's a lovely place for the residents of Norseman, but when you're trying to see a lot of things, the last thing you want to do is be stuck somewhere that you hadn't planned to stay.
Yeah, definitely. Look, one thing we are happy about, or two things we're happy about, is that Susan and I are actually together at the moment, which is great. At least we can keep each other occupied. If it was one of us on our own, it'd be a different story. Second thing is I'm glad that the part that we require is actually in Australia and they can ship it over. If the part, because I drive a Peugeot 407 Coupe. The parts aren't necessarily readily available in Australia. So thankfully this one is actually there. Otherwise we would literally be stuck here for weeks. And that would be a whole different ballgame altogether. I think I'd be having to arrange a trip up to Kalgoorlie, flying back home and then coming back when the car was ready, because we wouldn't be able to kind of handle that.
So you'd be selling the Peugeot when you get back and getting a much more easier to manage car, something that'll actually have parts wherever you go?
I don't think so. I think I'll keep our car. But if we did have a Commodore or a Mitsubishi Pajero or a Ford Falcon, I reckon we'd be fine. They would have been able to ship the parts over from Perth and we would have had them overnight. But because of the Peugeot, we just have to... Unfortunately, the parts aren't as readily available all over Australia, and they've got to come from Peugeot in Sydney, so we just have to wait and be patient and really just fingers crossed now that everything goes right and we can get out of here tomorrow morning, because we've still got a lot of things that we want to see. Unfortunately, as I say, we've got to cut a bit of the trip off and kind of make the most of what we do have. We will fit quite a few awesome things in still, as long as we can get out of here tomorrow.
Oh, well, best of luck. Hope the part comes tomorrow, and hope the rest of your trip is uneventful in that regard.
Yeah, I hope so too. So, what else what have you been up to, mate? Anything interesting?
Let's see, what have I been up to? I've been going around, just sort of heading out, taking some photos from around Melbourne, done a couple of trips down to the Great Ocean Road just for my own travels, met up with another photographer down there, which was, pretty fun. Yeah, took some interesting photos. Back now and planning or getting the sort of final touches done for our upcoming workshops in May.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, only 4 weeks away now until we hold our first workshop in Phillip Island. It's going to be pretty awesome. I mean, we did some good location scouting just a couple of weeks ago when I was over there. I'm super keen. I can't wait to head back there and actually be there under some really awesome conditions over the 4 days, and also timed all around Astro as well. So hopefully we'll have some nice clear skies at night time, but some really awesome cloudy skies at sunset and sunrise. Is that too much to ask as photographers?
Yeah, hopefully it'll be. We'll have lots of time to head around and really plan out the locations really well. I mean, we sort of did it in a few hours to a day trying to see everything, but it'll be nice to have a few days with a bunch of other people there that we can, just hang around the different locations, get a good chance to really capture the best parts of the island during some good conditions and good weather, and some Astro would be nice as well.
Definitely, and just a couple of weeks after that, we're also doing Cradle Mountain. Again, it's kind of timed around some good conditions for astrophotography. Cradle Mountain's a little bit trickier with the weather, but there's some incredible waterfalls, some amazing wildlife, and some just awesome scenery and forests around the area there. I mean, it's a place I know incredibly well. I've been visiting there for nearly 10 years now, multiple times every year. Susan and I visit there pretty much every year for her birthday, as well as just make random trips out there whenever we possibly can. So I know the area there very well, and I'm definitely looking forward to hosting some people there, because there's some amazing places there that I can't wait to kind of show some people, and some great wildlife. I mean, just even simple things like the wombats that come out every afternoon at Ronnie Creek. You've just got to kind of see how many of them there are to really actually believe it for your own eyes. This place just comes alive with literally wombats everywhere you look. They're just all over the place. I mean, just the opportunities for wildlife photography, as well as the landscape stuff that we're going to be able to do is really cool. So I mean, we've got a couple of places left for Phillip Island and 4 or 5 places left for Cradle Mountain. So anybody who's interested in coming along to join us on either of those workshops, we're definitely interested in hearing from you. They're going to be some great workshops. We've got plenty of things to share and some tips, and I'm sure many laughs along the way, where, I mean, I'm going to laugh at you, Kieran, a lot, because, I edit I edit all your photos for you, so,
Right, yeah. I'm really looking forward to Cradle Mountain. I've been to Tasmania quite a few times, but Cradle Mountain's one of the places I haven't been to, so I've seen lots of awesome photos from there, and I'm really looking forward to being able to add that location in my portfolio. And I've done the multiple day workshops before, and they're so much fun. You get to meet some great people and have huge laughs, and it's just a really good time, and you get awesome photos. So it should be a good time.
definitely. So anybody who's interested in joining us on either of those two workshops, check out projectrawcast.com/workshops, or just message us on either of our personal accounts or on Project Rawcast Instagram or Facebook. Definitely be interested in hearing from you. As I say, we've got a couple of spots left at Phillip Island and 4 spots left at Cradle Mountain. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you and come and join us on these workshops. Hopefully have a lot of laughs and also learn quite a lot about basic shooting, more advanced shooting, editing, processing. I mean, you're Mr. Photoshop. I'm definitely going to learn a lot from you yourself, but also a lot of social media training as well, kind of getting the most out of the images once you do have them. That's probably something as well that we really are looking to push off and share to people. So it will be pretty full-on 4 days for each of them. I mean, we're not planning on sleeping much. Hopefully the people who are coming aren't planning on sleeping much either, because there's so much to photograph, particularly even at night time around both of those locations. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We'd like to say a massive thank you to Nisi Filters Australia for their ongoing support of Project Rawcast. Nisi Australia have very quickly become the market leader in Australia for their filters, not just through the quality of their product, but also through their incredible aftermarket support and their support of the photography community as a whole. Both myself and Kieran use Nisi simply because of the fact they are the best quality filters on the market. Now, Nisi are offering our listeners a 5% discount for any purchases made at nisifilters.com.au by using the coupon code PROJECTRAWCAST at the checkout. So that's all one word, Project Rawcast. This can be used for any purchases of any amount for any Nisi products. So I'd like to say a massive thank you again to Nisi Filters Australia for their ongoing support of Project Rawcast.
Right, so what episode are we up to? We must be nearly episode 20?
Yeah, almost 2 full hands and 2 full feet worth of episodes. So
almost all the digits.
Episode 19, yes. So we're almost up to episode 20. So I can't believe that we've gotten this far. Episode 19, people are still listening to us as well.
Yeah, I know, that's odd, and yeah, people are enjoying it. I'll get around to listening to it one day, but at the moment I'll just stick to recording it.
Yes, well, mate, we've got plenty to talk about this episode, but there's going to be a few little things here. But something I really want to discuss with you is backing up your images. Do you back up your images? Do you back up your image library? And how do you do it if you do?
I have 20 different hard drives that I back everything up to. No, I don't really do that. I do really try and back things up. I do have some external hard drives that I'll back up my files to. So if I put some new files onto my computer, once they're up on the computer, I'll then put all those raw files onto a backup drive as well. So I know that at least they're in 2 different places, and then sometimes I'll just go through and back up any edits that I've done as well, so Photoshop documents. But it can be a little tricky to back up the ones that I've gone back to from, say, a folder that I've had a few months ago, and then I've edited an old photo, and then that's sitting there, and just finding those ones to back up. So it can be a bit tricky. I'm looking into a different way of backing up at the moment, which is more of a online cloud service, which for photography is really quite difficult without the NBN, because I've got a couple of terabytes of files that's trying to upload to a cloud, which is just taking forever at a slow internet. So at the moment I've got the external hard drive, which I try and manually back up, and the cloud one, which I'm looking into doing, which will automatically back up any modified files.
Yeah, so I definitely don't envy you having a backup over ADSL2, particularly with 50 meg raw files each and every time you take a shot. Yeah, look, I do the same thing. Obviously, have multiple hard drives. I've got a nice little RAID set up. Also got your Apple Airport, those sort of things to kind of sit there and act as a file server as well as a backup process. But I also use Google Drive and Dropbox at the same time as well. I actually use them both specifically. I tend to find Google Drive's a little bit better to transfer images to my mobile phone rather than Dropbox. I also find as well, when you're looking at Dropbox, you're looking at a preview of an image when it's on Dropbox, and it really actually frustrates me, whereas with Google Drive I tend to see a better resolution image before I download it onto my phone. But yeah, look, it's really important obviously as photographers to have a good way, probably the easiest way to say is digital asset management, because our images really are assets to your business. They're either the way that you make money, they are the way that you make money most of the time, obviously, unless you're talking about photography or selling photography equipment or any of that sort of stuff. But look, having a backup of your images is actually going to save you, and I can almost guarantee you at some stage of your career you are going to lose your images, whether that be just a day's work off your SD cards or through hardware failure. And computer hardware is only designed to last so many hours, and most manufacturers actually very much state this within their warranty and within the documentation of how many hours use a particular electronic device is going to deliver. So having your backup, so I back up both my raw and my processed images. I back up my Lightroom catalog as well, which the Lightroom catalog is actually the database that contains all the settings and variations that you make to a raw file. So I pretty much back everything up in multiple places, both in two clouds, Dropbox and Google Drive, as well as on multiple drives within my home and office. I'm probably a little bit lucky that I do have the NBN, so I don't even have to think about it with backing up, having a decent internet connection. But I definitely don't envy you needing to back up raw files over ADSL2 connection.
Yeah, no, it's still going at the moment. I think I started a couple of weeks ago, and it's still uploading stuff. So I've just got my computer on 24/7, just letting it upload and upload and upload. But I mean, we've spoken about insurance in a previous episode, and this is kind of insurance for something that you can't really get insurance for, because if you lose those files and those photos, you can't get them back if you've just paid for insurance. I mean, you can get a new camera or a new gear or something, but an individual photo that you've taken at that moment, if that photo is gone, if it's gone off your memory cards, off your computer, off any other external hard drives, once it's gone, there's no getting it back. So having that file in multiple locations is a form of insurance for being able to retrieve it. And I guess it depends on how paranoid you are about something actually happening to your files. And I've recently been thinking that I've got my hard drive in my computer, which I've got all my files on, and then I've got an external hard drive, which is a foot away from it. And if the house burnt down, then there goes both of those. So it's not really a good kind of system for backing things up when they're that close to each other. Because if one thing happens to one of them, then it's likely that something will happen to the other. So that's why the cloud backup system seems like such a good option, because it's safe somewhere else that isn't in a physical place near me or near where everything else is backed up.
Definitely look at any IT professional and any systems management, systems maintenance type IT role will tell you that having off-site backups is very important. So obviously having easily accessible backups within your business place, which will be typically your home as a photographer, but also then having off-site backups is just as important, just in case things like burglary, robbery, house fire, earthquake, aliens coming to abduct you and somehow sucking up your computer at the same time. All that sort of stuff is quite important to actually think about. So yeah, actually having an offsite backup is hugely important. I do that type of thing as part of my job when I work with clients within the IT world, and when I actually audit workplaces and business workplaces with this sort of thing, one of the very first things I do is ask if their data is secure, and if it's not secure, how do we secure it? So yeah, making sure that everything's backed up and having a really good method of digital asset management as well at the same time is going to be really important as a photographer. So yeah, look, Dropbox and Google Drive is one to look at, definitely, but there's pretty cheap RAID storage or RAID backup units as well, or just simple USB hard drives will do the job for you. But making sure that you're actually storing your images in multiple places is going to be an insurance policy, just in case you do lose your images through hardware failure or any of those types of things. So
yeah, one of the things with Dropbox as well that I noticed, I tried to keep some large TIFF files on there, or PSD files as well. And I tend not to name my files, because I usually can see a preview of them. So I know that's that photo, and I don't really look at the name that it is, because it just has the same name that comes out of the camera. But on Dropbox, when you're looking at it, it won't show a preview if it's over a gigabyte. And some of my photos tend to be over a gigabyte if they are large format PSDs or 16-bit TIFF files. And so I've realized that I've uploaded a bunch of photos to Dropbox, and I've got no idea what they are because I haven't renamed them to anything to say what the actual file is, and it won't show me a preview because it's over a gig. So that's a bit frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's just even something to think about there. I mean, the size of your files alone, typically an internal hard drive, say on a Mac, is going to be about 1 terabyte of storage. These days, if you're storing files that are a gigabyte, like I've had examples of my own files that are upwards of 4 gigabytes, and Photoshop refuses to save them because of the file size limit that they have. Once you start getting layered files that have a lot of work done to them and become that sort of size, it's important to have storage externally as well as having a backup process, because your computer's not going to store that many files. So yeah, just making sure there's so many different reasons there to have your images in multiple places, but definitely for me, and it's a hugely important thing, just making sure that you've got a good backup process to ensure that you don't lose your files, and have a good method to go back over time if you do actually need to recover anything.
So when you're out shooting landscape photos and stuff, do you tend to use just autofocus because it tends to do a pretty good job, or do you look through the viewfinder and use a manual focus? Or what do you think is the best way to actually focus your images?
The best way to focus an image is to get an image that's focused, I suppose. That's the easiest way to explain it. It doesn't matter how it's done. I think, look, obviously I know you use manual focus a lot, and I've actually questioned you about this, but I also use autofocus a lot. For me, this is something I'd love to know, is why you personally use manual focus as compared to autofocus, because most cameras these days are pretty quick and pretty accurate in what they do and what they're actually focusing on. Manual focus just kind of seems like a lot of hard work to me, really. Definitely, obviously, for nighttime shots, for astrophotography, that sort of thing, it's probably important because your camera's not going to focus in the dark. You've obviously it's good to zoom in on stars and just kind of get your manual focus set on a particular star to make sure it's nice and sharp. But why are you standing above 12 apostles and manually focusing and zooming in 10 times on your viewfinder rather than just letting your camera do the work?
Because you never know what the camera is going to do. And if it may be picking up something that you're not really sure about, it may be focusing on some high level or high area of contrast that isn't where you want it to be focused. So manual focus is just one way that you can really just set it and know that it's focused at a distance that is going to give you the best focus. And some cameras as well, especially the 5D Mark III, have a depth of field preview button, which is tremendously helpful because you can set your focus and then hold down the depth of field preview button, and it'll show you what the actual image looks like when it's stepped down to the aperture that you're using. So you can actually check your depth of field and whether everything is going to be in focus by using the manual focus, zooming in with live view as well, and just really refining where you want your image to be focused. Because who knows, you may do a whole scene of, it might have a lot of foreground and a lot of background, and use autofocus and it focuses on the background, but you'll find that your foreground could be quite soft. And you won't know that unless you've actually focused yourself or done autofocus and then taken the photo, and by then it could be too late.
Yeah. So when you're teaching your students in your workshops and your one-on-one sessions around town, do you tell them to manual focus, or do you let them autofocus? What are you actually recommending to people?
I always tell them manual focus. I always sort of say you don't always have to go full manual for every shot that you take, but I think manual focus, at least understanding it and knowing how to do it, is really invaluable when it comes to photography. And if you can do it, it doesn't really take a lot of time or effort once you get used to doing it. And so, especially with filters as well, you put a 10-stop filter on, your camera's not going to be able to focus through that as well. So having the ability to manual focus through live view, which sometimes the camera can still show you what is going on behind the filter in live view, but it may not be able to autofocus. So I always teach people how to manual focus through live view if they can.
Okay, fair enough. Well, because I use autofocus most of the time, particularly during the daytime. Even with filters on, I tend to actually focus prior to putting the filter on if I need to with the 10 stop. So I'll actually do the focus and then switch the lens into manual focus, so it locks that focus, and then put the filter on. But yeah, look, I tend to shoot more in autofocus mode. I think my cameras are pretty smart with that, and it's probably one less thing that I need to worry about when I'm taking photos. I've never really found a reason for it not to either, to not kind of do it that way. Astrophotography and nighttime photography, definitely you need to manually focus. But during the daytime, any kind of normal stuff where you've got good light, for me, my cameras do the job pretty well. I mean, Canon got great autofocus on them, nice and fast as well, particularly with the Mark IIIs and upwards. Even the 5DS, 5DSR, for me, have always been great with their focus. So, yeah, just one of those things. I think, obviously, I know that you do manually focus more than you do autofocus. I've never actually really seen you autofocus unless you're shooting handheld. So, yeah, it's just interesting to kind of know why you do that over autofocus.
Also with portraits as well, if you're just using handheld and not having a tripod, being able to manual focus through the viewfinder can be a great skill to learn as well. Because sometimes with autofocus, it'll tend to focus on the background. Even if you are shooting portraits, you could potentially lose a really great shot just because the camera has done that 1 in 100 shot where it's focused on the background, or maybe it just tends to focus on the background because it's really contrasty there, so it's easy for it to pick it up. I think learning how to manual focus either through the viewfinder or with the live view is a great skill to be able to learn. And if you find that your autofocus is doing fine, there's nothing wrong with using it if it works, but you should still be able to learn how to manual focus and know how to do it and what actual benefits there are from it.
Cool. Well, that's just another thing for people to think about when they're picking up their camera and using it now, that they've got to focus as well. Now I've got to figure out which window to look through on my camera. I mean, which is the big round hole or the little rectangle hole. I've got to figure that out now. But yeah, no.
The big round hole.
The big round hole, definitely.
Look through there, take a photo, and it should turn out pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. The art of focusing is probably something that not a lot of people think about these days. Obviously, with the use of digital cameras, I mean, they do a great job with autofocus, as we both will admit. But yeah, I mean, you definitely like to add the extra level of complexity to your photography and manually focus all the time. So it's just interesting to kind of understand why. I think it's probably, it's easier with a tripod as well to be able to just kind of zoom in on your live view and kind of dial in the focus ring to where you've got to be. Shooting handheld for me, obviously, particularly if you're shooting fast-moving objects, birds and that sort of thing, you're going to use an autofocus, particularly if you've got it. A good camera is going to be able to kind of allow you to continually focus as you're moving and panning your camera as well. So, yeah, those types of things are probably more beneficial to actually use the camera for the way it's built and with the actual technology that it has built into it.
Yeah, the continuous autofocus for sport photography is great. As you are tracking an object, it'll continuously keep updating that focus point. We shoot maybe 99.9% of our shots on a tripod, and being able to really know where the focus point is a great thing, because we start with the best conditions that we have, being able to use the best settings, the best lighting, filters and everything. We can set up everything perfectly, and then we can start degrading the image depending on what we actually want to achieve. So if I can manual focus, because I know that's going to be good, that's why I'll do manual focus. I won't just use autofocus because it can work. I know manual focus is going to work, and that's why I use it.
Cool. Sweet. I'll give it a go more often now and just kind of see if it actually works for me. I definitely still prefer to use what the camera actually has built into it for me. Particularly, I mean, we're using cameras that are $5,000 plus, $4,000 plus to go and buy them. So if they weren't able to focus, I think you'd be going and buying another camera pretty quickly. But yeah, that's probably just my reason.
Well, I'll make sure to teach you how to use the focus on the workshops.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think mate, you're gonna have to show me which window to look through on the camera as well, because I'll probably need to start there. So
our other guests might have to be patient while I teach Tassigrammer how to take photos.
As I said in the start, it's going to be a lot of laughs. So yeah, you can just laugh at me. Yeah, which end of the camera to look through. That might kind of help me be able to teach other people stuff as well.
You just have to stay one step ahead of the student. A massive thank you to George's Cameras on George Street in Sydney for sponsoring Project RAWcast. George's Cameras is always on the list of places to go when we visit Sydney. As a photographer, there's always something we need or want, and we know we can get it from George's Cameras. Or we just like to browse and check out all the cool gear that they've got. To support this show and our listeners, George's Cameras is giving away a $50 voucher every month to the winner of our Instagram hashtag competition. All you have to do is mention Project RAWcast in your caption and hashtag Project RAWcast. Tassigrammer and I will pick our favourite each month to share on our account and give the $50 George's Camera voucher to. Thanks again to George's Cameras for supporting Project RAWcast and all of our listeners.
Now, so March Instagram competition, our hashtag competition on IG. We've got a winner, and pretty worthy winner as well, I think, this one.
Yeah, I really like this image. It's kind of a difficult shot to get, especially with, well, I don't know whether he was using autofocus or manual focus for this shot, but to be able to capture a jet, an FA-18 fighter jet at the Melbourne Grand Prix while breaking the sound barrier, I think, or actually, no, it wasn't breaking the sound barrier. It just had the kind of condensation build up around the wings. Yeah, but our winner for the March IG competition is at Randall_M_Smith. So congratulations, Randall, for winning the $50 George's gift voucher.
Congrats, Randall. This is a pretty awesome image. Both Kieran and I are big fans of fighter jets. They're basically big toys. I like to think of them as really big drones that fly really fast. So they're fantastic image, and also such an iconic event as well. So well done on capturing such a great image. And yeah, congratulations on taking home the $50 gift voucher this month from George's Cameras as well.
Maria can attest that when I heard the jets during the day of the Grand Prix, I ran out to our balcony and I was leaning over trying to see just a glimpse of them flying around in the sky over near Albert Park. But unfortunately, I couldn't actually see them, but I kept hearing them just like fly past, and I'd run back out to the balcony and try and see them. I absolutely love jets, and this is a great photo of a jet from Randall. And yeah, congratulations.
Mate, during the week, so I read some. I've had 4 days of doing nothing but sitting down reading and chasing flies. There's more flies in Norseman than I think there is at Ayers Rock, and that's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Because when you're at Ayers Rock, you got to wear those head masks to kind of walk around. Norseman, mate, is just as bad. It's really horrible. I think we've been through a couple of cans of fly spray and all sorts of stuff to try and do it. So, but I have had plenty of time to sit down and read, and something that really got my attention during the week is this accusation of plagiarism at the Sony World Photo Awards this year. A photographer who produced an image in 2011 has accused an entrant of this particular competition of plagiarising her idea, where there's basically a composite image of the new image is a young girl floating on a basically a big exercise ball, if you like, in midair, and it's basically very, very similar to the style of image that this lady produced in 2011 as well. She's come out publicly accusing this guy of direct plagiarism. It's quite interesting for me as well with this one, because obviously plagiarism, inspiration, copying, all those sort of things is something that's really big within the photography world. But it almost gets to the point though, and this for me is probably an example of this, where copying other people, it is just directly copying now. You look at these two images and you got to say, like, for me, I look at it and just think that is basically a blatant attempt to replicate the exact style of images she's done. It's too closely done to even the pose of the young girl on the ball matching the pose of the woman that's on the ball in the other image. It's just so closely matched to each other that it's kind of hard to deny. I think this one is a direct copy of somebody else's idea. But obviously, imitation of art is almost a compliment, if you like, and it's in many ways considered that. But in the world of photography and in the world of professional photography, what do you think of this one, mate? Because this really does strike me, and it's not just the image itself in this, but I'm seeing this a lot with the business practices, business models and ideas of other photographers as well, where basically the photography industry, everybody's just copying each other. There's no uniqueness, there's no element of, just doing your own thing and going your own way. It's literally people are copying each other's ideas, copying each other's locations, copying each other's image styles, copying each other's business models, copying each other's methods of getting their ideas out there. Everything. There's so much going on in the world of photography. Where does it stop? Where does inspiration become literally plagiarism? That's a question that I'm going to ask you.
Well, that's quite a lengthy question, and there's quite a lot to really answer there and sort of look into, and there's so many different cases. But I mean, we are sort of looking specifically at this case from the Sony World Photo Awards, and yeah, you look at, if you just put these two photos next to each other and said, okay, which one's the original or which one is the copied one, or do you think that they both had the same, or someone's copied the other one? You'd think yes, because they look so similar, right down to the depth of field where the balls are in the foreground and background. As you said, the posing of the subject on the ball, almost the color of the dress that they're both wearing as well. It's so almost exactly the same, but from two different people in two different locations, that it'd be impossible for them to have the same idea at the same time. I mean, they're 6 years apart, I think, the photos. So, I mean, where the photographer that got into the Sony World Photo Awards says that he got the inspiration from a movie or something, a scene from another movie.
Yep, exactly.
And that's where he came up with the idea. But I mean, people are kind of saying, so his response was, I didn't copy this person, I copied another person. And they're saying that that's okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is as well. I think the guy has come out and basically submitted a video to the guys who judged the Sony World Photo Awards, and have basically said, no, look, this is where I got my inspiration from. It's not from this photo. They've taken it on face value and kind of believe him, and have came out and actually publicly stated, look, we actually believe this guy, but the evidence hasn't been provided publicly. It's a strange one where this happens everywhere within photography, as I say, even just down to the business models of other people directly and deliberately copying each other. It's happening all over, particularly in the Australian landscape market at the moment. I see it literally every day now. I don't want to kind of bring up too many direct examples of this myself personally at the moment, but yeah, look, inspiration is one thing, and I think inspiring people to want to go out and succeed is one thing. Inspiring people to directly copy your work or directly copy your business models and directly copy your business practices is a whole different ballgame altogether, because that's no longer inspiration. That's just literally people copying each other. If you want to inspire, or if you want to get inspiration in art, it's great to look at other people and go, oh mate, this is fantastic, I want to achieve something similar. But this is an example of a photo that's obviously had a lot of coverage this week that really does, for me, represent an exact example of direct copying rather than using inspiration to go and actually succeed yourself.
I think this is a very specific example, though. I mean, this photo is so unique that anything that comes out like it's very obvious that it's either copied or so they've seen that one before and then thought that they had the idea. But it's very different to, as you're saying, with copying in the landscape community, where you see someone's photo from a specific spot and you go and you take a shot with maybe your tripod in the exact same spot. There may not be that many great compositions, or you may be limited to any kind of boardwalks on viewing platforms. And so sometimes it is very easy to get a very similar shot in terms of composition and stuff. But I do know what you mean in terms of copying people by not kind of admitting or not saying that they've got inspiration from someone else, or they've said that they had the original idea, or they're the first ones to do it, or using someone else's same editing style.
Yeah.
You see so many people selling actions for Lightroom and things. And I mean, I don't know why people do that, because it's just giving them your style, and then they're going to go out and say that they're going to go take photos and use your style and say that they're their own photos. So
that's it.
I think that can be a bit tricky as well.
I think the thing that I see with the most successful photographers that I kind of follow and witness myself is they do have their own unique style. They have their own unique thing that makes their images special. Once people go out and try to copy that exact process, or copy that exact compositional technique, or copy that exact, it's no longer unique anymore. And the people who are actually deliberately going out of their way to copy is it copying is it inspiration or is it directly copying? And I think when you get to the point where it's not just inspiration to help yourself achieve better, it is actually, I'm going to go and replicate this image, and I'm going to go and replicate this exact process of compositing my image together in the exact same method or whatever, then that's a whole different thing. And as I say, it's not just in the actual art of the photography. I see it a lot in business as well. People going and seeing things that work for other people and then all of a sudden implementing that exact thing into their own photography business. It's kind of, I think, how do we say, counterproductive to go and enter and just directly copy what other people do rather than really maximising your own niche markets or your own niche knowledge. That's my opinion. This was just an example of this that I kind of saw this week and got me thinking a little bit more deeply into even just, my own things and my own way of creating images, my own methods of experimentation and playing, but also in the way that I try to attempt to do different things in my business practice as well, rather than just copying other people and entering markets that are just super competitive to begin with. So, the actual answer that came out to this, where the Sony Press Awards have actually said that they believe this photographer, is quite interesting. I'd love to see the evidence that he submitted to this. I believe he's actually shown it to Petapixel as well. Petapixel have seen the actual video on the promise that they wouldn't release it. So I'm wondering if these two photographers that are kind of feuding at the moment are going to sort their stuff out and hopefully move on from this and hopefully go and continue being creative themselves.
I am interested to see, one of them said that they got the inspiration from a movie and they didn't copy this other photographer, but I wonder if that is an old movie and whether they both got the same inspiration from the same movie and thought of the same idea. Because, it is possible for people to have the same ideas around the same time, and then you both sort of in different places come up with the idea because there was that trigger point, which could be a movie, it could be, I don't know, something that's going on in the world. And then as soon as one person does it, can you say that the other person can't do something similar? For this instance, the photo is so the same, and it's kind of hard to really sort of say that it's not sort of copied or something. But if, say, the other person did this girl holding the ball floating in space or something, so it wasn't a corridor like it is in the photo, but it was in space, and they sort of changed it around, or they had a kind of a different idea, would it still then be copying and plagiarism, or have they adapted an inspiration to make something uniquely their own? So there is kind of a fine line between inspiration and plagiarism. And I guess everything is different on a case-by-case basis. But sometimes it can be so obvious that you just have to say, yeah, it's completely copied. Tassigrammer and I would like to thank F-Stoppers for sponsoring this podcast. Whenever I want to know what's going on in the world of photography, I go to fstoppers.com. Not only do they provide great news articles and tips for photographers like me, they also have a fantastic range of photography and post-processing tutorials. I personally have watched the Cityscape tutorial with Elia Liccardi, and I was blown away by the amount of information and production value of the tutorial. There was over 15 hours of content, from setting up in amazing locations all over the world to the post-processing and the final image. F-Stoppers are offering our listeners a 10% discount on these amazing Elia Liccardi tutorials by using the discount code RAWcast at checkout. So if you want to take a leap in your understanding of photography and post-processing, head to fstoppers.com and get a 10% discount on Elia Liccardi tutorials using the discount code RAWcast. Thanks again to F-Stoppers for supporting this show. For those of you listening at home, everything will be running smoothly thanks to the magic of editing, but the wonder of Norseman has struck again, and Tassigrammer's internet has cut out. So we're back now after a little fiddling around and potential disaster of losing the whole episode, but we're back and everything's good. Hello, Tassigrammer.
Oh, hello, Kieran. Thank you very much for pointing that out, because yes, Norseman has struck again. For whatever reason, the internet's dropped out. My computer the file recording nicely locked up, and I've just had to recover the hour of recording that we'd already done from a backup temporary file, which thankfully it had. Otherwise, I would think I'd be throwing the computer across the caravan park.
How relevant to the episode.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so Norseman did strike again. Hopefully that's for the last time. Yeah, we can move on now and hopefully continue recording with no other issues. Some more newsworthy stuff that we saw this week. Bentley have released what they're claiming is the world's largest landscape image at 57.7 gigapixel, a new interactive ad. This is the second in their series of interactive ads filmed over the Dubai Marina.
Yeah, this is, and it's another one. I think we had another large photo for the inauguration of Donald Trump.
Yep.
And this is along the similar lines in terms of a interactive photo that you can zoom in, zoom out, and look things really close. And the idea being in the center, there's a nice Bentley just sitting in, I don't know, at the side of the marina there. And it's, another crazy image where you just scroll around trying to find little scenes around, I don't know, people's balconies or swimming pools or construction work in the road. And it's just a massive photo, really.
Yeah, look, you can actually zoom in from the top of one of the big skyscrapers down onto the actual bonnet decal, or the actual logo that sits on the bonnet of the Bentley, and zoom that in at a full 100% crop. It's pretty insane, the amount of detail in this image. Yeah, this is actually the second in their series of similar images that Bentley have done. They also did one over a bridge not so long ago as well, which is the same. This one, though, you can actually kind of roam around the image itself and kind of look everywhere, not just zoom in on the Bentley decal. So it's pretty interesting to kind of have a look around the Dubai Marina.
It took quite a lot to actually put together. What was it, stitched together from 1,800 photos, and it took like 18 hours or 48 hours to capture or something, and stitching it took 18 hours. So yeah, it's a huge undertaking, and it really pays off. It's a fantastic piece of work here.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, look, we'll put some links up into the episode guide for this. As long as I can maintain internet connection out here at Norseman, we will do that. I'll put up some links to this so people can zoom in and and click on it and have a look and actually play around with this, because it's pretty insane the amount of detail in this image. It's just really quite cool to see a big brand like this using these interactive images as well for their advertising. So just check our episode links for that, and we'll have a link to it. And another one that we saw during the week, so Tassigrammer continues its symbiotic relationship with each other, or absorbing one platform into the other with the launch of messages, or direct messages, which can now be viewed within the Messenger platform for Facebook pages. So you can now actually look at your Instagram messages if your two pages, your Instagram account and your Facebook business page, are linked together.
Yeah, I put a story up on the Project RAWcast Instagram about this, saying Tassigrammer strikes again or something, because it was such a weird thing. I was getting all these notifications on my Facebook that were related to my Instagram, and I went to this new inbox and I've got Messenger, Facebook and Instagram, so I can reply to my Instagram messages on my desktop with Facebook. So normally you can do it on the Instagram site anyway, but now it gives you little notifications about who's commented on your images, and you can reply to it and everything. It's just unnecessary. I don't need this in my Facebook. I've got two different apps. I want them to be different. I don't want Tassigrammer. I want Facebook and I want Instagram.
Yeah, look, I think it's, as I've said before, it's about time somebody else comes up with a new platform to replace Instagram, because this isn't going to stop. Obviously, it's going to keep rolling into each other. Instagram is now very much even more so than it previously was, algorithmically handicapping your images with the drive and push purely towards having people paying for marketing. So this integration is going to continue. There's nothing else we can do about it now other than hope that somebody else can come up with a new marketing platform. Something obviously we've discussed previously in the past as well, is people are so dependent, or people's whole business practices are dependent on their Instagram platform or Instagram account. I think if you are really feeling the stress from this, you need to focus on building a brand rather than building an account. That's something for maybe another time, when I'm not stuck in Norseman and could probably get in more in depth into this without the risk of having my internet drop out. But yeah, look, the thing now is really focusing on building a brand, not just having an Instagram account. That's going to be the key thing to future growth, and really getting over this whole negativity around the two platforms being integrated into one, because it's causing a lot of people a lot of stress and a lot of heartache. It'd be great if somebody else came up with another platform, but even still, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for that to mature, to be an actual marketing platform that people are really utilising in the same way that they've used Instagram in the past.
And if someone could tell me how to bulk get rid of the notifications on this thing, because I come in here and it tells me that I've got all these things that need following up and all these messages that I haven't viewed, and I just want to clear them all in a bulk way instead of clicking on each one and saying done. So if anyone has worked that out, please let me know. I want to get rid of this thing.
Isn't there a button there to delete your account?
Yeah. I could sign. Yeah, but even that doesn't delete your account. That just lets you not access it for a while. It still keeps everything there.
Just puts it into suspend mode.
Yeah.
But that was kind of interesting. And obviously, we go on a lot about Facebook and Instagram. And we're going to continue going on about Facebook and Instagram because it is such two very, very photography-heavy platforms that we all use to market ourselves.
Mm. Well, I can hear the birds in the background there, just trying to get on board with the show.
I'd be surprised if you couldn't hear the flies as well. I've literally sat here just swatting my face non-stop for the last hour and a half while we're talking because the flies here are ridiculous. And they're some sort of zombie breed of flies as well because they leave these massive big bite marks. Like I've seen marching flies, but these things are like, I don't know, they've got fangs on them. They're like huge. So please get me out of here. I hope my car's ready tomorrow because right now, I tell you what, I'm almost ready to start walking down the highway.
It is a bit weird that, as soon as your car is ready, you have a very long drive ahead of you as well. It's not just like you can just get home or get somewhere nice. You've got to cross the entire country first, and hopefully your car doesn't break down, and they've done a good job.
We're not even going home. We've probably got another equivalent to the amount of kilometres we've already done. I think we clocked up 4,800 kilometres or something on the way over here, plus all the stuff we did around Esperance and around Cape Le Grand. So we've done quite a lot of kilometres in the last week. So we've probably going to easily equal that and still not be doing everything that we plan to do. So we've kind of got to trust that the mechanic knows what he's doing here as well, because as soon as we jump in that car, we're off. We're heading to Port Lincoln, 18 hours straight through. So let's just pray that it's ready tomorrow morning and we get there safely. So.
Well, maybe we should wrap this up before the birds start attacking you and the flies start gnawing your face off and before you cut out again. And so, we'll wrap this up with another message to check out our workshops in Phillip Island and Cradle Mountain. Check out the info at projectrawcast.com/workshops and join us for an incredibly fun time in awesome locations.
Absolutely. I promise I'll be back on that side of Australia by then as well. No matter what, one way or another, I'll be back there.
Well, there's that downside, but come along anyway.
Nice. All right. Terrific. Yeah, definitely check out any of the episode notes for some of the stuff we were talking about this week, and check out our Instagram and Facebook to keep up to date with what we're doing. So I'm off. I'm going to go and, as I say, try and hide from these zombie flies, and I'll chat with you later.
All right. Enjoy your romantic dinner at the BP.
Awesome. Thanks for reminding me. Thanks, mate. Cheers. All right. See ya.
See ya.